Hi, my name is Chen, and for this section of the presentation, I'm going to demo our project for this semester. And first, let me navigate to our website. So we can see that we have a login page here, and first we do register. And let's say the username is Ben, and the password we can type an easy password, and then then we can type a different password, and we can see that in our first gate of protecting the authentication, so we just double check if users getting the same password exactly he want or she want, and then we can just type the same password and register. And now we can log in as Ben, and we can type a different password, and by login we can see the user is not exist or the password is wrong. So this time we type in the right password, and then we log in successfully, and we can see we currently have only 5 online users, and another 4 is the list of their, and this 4 is our teammate who is currently logging, and we just don't care this 4 user. We just log in another user. So there is a user called username1, and we just log in as this user. So we can say that is our objective too, the user to see all users who are currently logging. We can see the page immediately showing that username 1 is online now, and then the online user number is 6. And from this browser, from username 1, we can see that Ben is also online. So then we can change the password as a part of our authentication. So when we click at my profile, you can see we can change another password. So this time we change another password. We can see the 7789456 update password, and you have to change your password. And then we can log out. So this time we log in as the password that we set the first time. So the first time we set is 1234567 123456, and then we can see the password is have already changed, so the password is wrong. Then we type 5889456. So this time we got logged in successfully. So that is the full part of our user account with secure authentication. So the next part going to be the direct message part. So when we click username 1, and we can see there's the chat interface that we can send message to user 1, and then also open. So now we establish a one-to-one private room, which only can receive message from each other. And then we can send username 1 to a message, hello, username 1. And from here we can say hello to him. So the message is directly the message is directly received, and we have the option to send to message back, and for verify is one-to-one, we can choose another we can log in as another user, the third user. So here we have username 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see another username is online now, and by click that username 2, we can say hello, username 2, and then. So we can see for username 1, there's no receiving message because Ben is sending message to username 2, and from username 2, when we click to Ben, we can see there the Ben have already sent a message to username 2. So that is our part of direct message, which is one-to-one message. And for fourth objective, we overlapping it with the WebSocket part of the objective. So that means the user can send the multimedia content via the WebSocket, uh, and then save it and host it to our server and database. So for showing that, we can see that. You can see that we can choose a file and send a doc image. Oh, we send to username 2. So here, username 2, we get a doc image. Then we replay a image. So we can choose a Kate. Then we can see there Ben received a message from Ben, and the username is 2. So for showing that the image is have already stored into the and hosted into our server and database, we need to log out as the current user, and then we re-log in. Oh, oh, yes, we changed the password. Yeah, this time is right. And then when we click username 2, we can see that the chat history is persistent on our server. So which means that when we click the user, we have message before our application will retrieve the data from database and to show out the history that the user chat with the other user before. And
Hi, my name is Iwich, and in this part of the video, I will be discussing the frameworks we've been using for our project, mainly the front-end framework as part of our software architecture. So let's start by talking about Vue. So the Vue.js is the framework we've been dealing with for our project. In every Vue file, it's got this template for HTML code, script for JS code, and style for the CSS, and scoped meaning all the CSS or the style is being scoped to this file in particular. Then we have the view router. The view router gives us the ability to serve pages in a different path. So for example, in the path logging, it's going to take the component from views folder, login.view. So it's gonna take this file and serve it at the path that we want. So in this case, at the login path. And it's gonna be the same for all other paths that we set. So for the home page, we have this component home, which is the home page. Then we have the axios, which I'll be discussing later, but in briefly speaking, we will be using the get and the post for our project. Then we have the Vuex, which is a centralized storage system for the Vue.js. We have the state, meaning the data, and we have the mutation, meaning the functions to change the data in the state. So the power of the Vuex is that we were able to have these data remain persistent regardless the path they're on. So it doesn't matter we are in the login path or we're in the home path, the data in the Vuex will remain the same. And a good example will be having this notification alert. This is because our login status is false. So when we're in the login page, it doesn't say anything because it should be false. But if we're able to go into the home page where everyone is logged in, then it should be a problem. So we are able to use this login status equal to false to prevent anyone entering the home page without being logged in, unless they are logged in by using the axios post. Let's go to our school server. So here is where axios come in. We were able to have this axios to send our username and password to the server, and server will return us some sort of status code to say whether this person, this user, is qualified to log in. In this case, it should be because we have the right login username and password. Once we logged in, we will be communicating with other people using the WebSocket. So in this case, we are able to send message, the text, and a file, which will be images. So this is where the WebSocket comes in. So send the image and the send text. So as a summary, we have two ways of communication. One is by WebSockets to communicate with other users as a direct message, and we have the axios as communicating with the server, pushing as a posting, and getting as get data from the server. Then we also have two storage systems. One is centralized by using the Vuex, and one is more local by using the data in the Vue component itself. So all these data under the data will be local to this page. Once we leave this page, we will be no longer to obtain them. That's why we have the Vuex. And I will also be briefly touching on the endpoints, but there should be where backends come in, but I'll discuss it briefly. So our front end is running on localhost 8081 when the Docker starts, and we just have that to be exposed on port 80 because the server only allows port 80. Then we have the port 8080 as our server. So all the axios posts and gets will be sent to port 8080 of this website. In fact, something like this. Then we have our APIs coming after. Yeah, so basically that's what we're about, and I believe the backend software architecture will be focusing on this more. Yeah, so that's everything for the front end, and thank you for watching this part.
We're using the Spring Boot for the backend, and which is the framework based on the Java. And it's the characteristic for the Spring is like IOC, which is inverse of control. What does that mean? Like, if you're creating the object, it will be put the object in the container for several, like sometimes it will be have some lifetime in the bin or container, or in the configuration based on the annotation what you use. Then when you want using this object, you can just using the annotation which is the hardware and just directly to using it without any to such like initialize the object and create new object like this. So that's the IOC part, and that's the most important in our project. And also in the project we're using the RESTful API, which is also using the annotation get post such like this RESTful annotation. Then in our project backend part, we're using such like the DAO architecture, which is the data access object. What does that mean? It will be have the three layers, such like business, objects, which means the data, business, and the service. Which in the object you are creating objects such like user or chat or bunch of things. It will be in the models such as user, chat. They will be stored all the information based on the object. Then in the DAO, there's a bunch of interface which will be useful in the service layer. And in the service layer, we will try to implement the DAO interface which using the service. And service will be annotation service will be connected with the repository in the DAO, and it will be a few hardware to give the information based on the implement. So that's the, and then in the controller, which is the business layer part, we will try to using, we're using the request controller, which is the gate, post, and the RESTful API, and that's the search part. And we also have some cross origin, which is the cross of region. They are found some URL and send the data to us to the backend. And in the chat controller, where we have the server endpoint, which is the specific part where we send the data from. So that's the general things in our project for the backend. So let's go to more detail. In the RESTful API, we have in the RESTful API for the login and login register controller, we have some get and post requests, and we have the hardware, which I explained before. Hardware you can just directly using the object, which is what I'm doing right now. Just directly use it, and then we have the post mapping and the get mapping. The post mapping will give the path where's it from, and then it's process all the entire things based on the database. And then the get also is the similar way with the post, and it will be also using the service to get all the data. And then in the service, let's go to the service, check that. In the service, it will be use the annotation service and implement by the repository, which is the user repository. And in the user repository, which is all the function based on the Mongo, it will be generate entire object for the Mongo repository for you. So you can using the API from the MongoDB. And then in the bunch of function, we can just directly use that because we're using the hardware to give the information based on the object. So you can using the API from the MongoDB. And then in the bunch of function, we can just directly use that because we're using the hardware to give the information based on the object. So you can using the API from the MongoDB. And then in the bunch of function, we can just directly use that because we're using the hardware to directly initialize the repository. And then in the RESTful controller, RESTful API, we're using the service class, and in the service, we were using the DAO to access the function. The reason why using that is because we are easily to change the way if there's a change or you have to add some feature, so it will be easy to change it without any like modify some unrelated code. Then for the login and the register AP controller, and in the chat we have the endpoint, and also it's similar with the RESTful API, but with the endpoint. And also it's still using the annotation all the way, and also it has different annotation, which is on open and on message and on close on arrow. And also they're using the same post mapping. The post, and then in the on open on message, which is on message, will be give the JSON string, which is contain all the message with that, and convert to the message way, and store that. That's the send message, and similar with the message. And then the onClose will be changed, define the person or the user with close their places, and they will be sending the onClose annotation, and will check who close it and have to remove on it. On open is someone getting the chat will be annotation on its open space. And then the HTML escape, which means it will be prevent the HTML injection. And also in the configuration with the bin, that's the server endpoint will be returned server endpoint export porter. So that's the general things on the backend. And also in the database, we're trying to do everything with the database based on the controller. Will be depends on what kind of like platform will be do. Like logging, I have to check the user information, and in the register, we have to check the user information with the in the database, and also to store the information in the database. And in the database, we have the user repository, just like what I mentioned before. You can just directly extend the Mongo repository based on the repository annotation. It will be give you all the information and the API from the database. So that's the general thing, entire things for our project. And there's the Docker file for the both of these. For the backend, it's based on the two Docker file. One is from the Maven, and the other one is just from the JDK. And just build it with both of these will be enough. And Docker Compose, we're using 8080 column 8080 as the backend part. That's the ports on the backend, and using the 80 and the column 8080 for the front end. So which means if the front end should be sent the path from specifically the URL and column 8080 to send the data to the backend. They makes connection each other. So that's the general idea how it processes the data and how to store and how to deal with the response to that. So yeah, that's all about the backend in the project.
Throughout this project, we have learned how each part also work connected together and show their functions, and team working, like how to do a project as a team. We have to meet once every week and assign new tasks, communicate to each other, make sure we all on the right track. And framework use, source coding reading skills, WebSocket, WebSocket is based on HTTP protocol, or borrows the HTTP protocol to complete part or handshake. It only needs one HTTP request, then you can achieve continuous information transmission. And also we learn WebSocket data processing, strengthening the understanding and usage of our previous homeworks. And we get familiar with Docker. With Docker, we can use container as lightweight, modular virtual machines. It can smoothly migrate it from one environment to another. It can run multiple processes and multiple applications independently, giving full play to the role of infrastructure while maintaining the security of each independent system. Lastly, we learn how to use MongoDB to store data. MongoDB is an in-memory database, can be used as front-end cache server, buffer data storage area, and can also be used as storage server for application system. MongoDB is best for prototyping when the structure of your data is constantly changing. Take advantage of flexibility. And any difficulties that we face, like for the Docker part, we didn't use the same exactly what we learned in class, so we have to write the code that fit our project. It's kind of complicated, like how to package into runnable jar file and package real. And we also have a difficult time when we deploy the project. When we deploy the project, because of the front end have its own server, so we have to add the specific port at the end, then we can send to backend. What we'll do differently next time, like each member will take different roles. For example, the front end person will take the back end part job, change the new rules, and learn some new stuff. And also, adding high concurrency and handles of multiple thread priority processing, because it can better optimize and handle things. If I had a chance to talk to myself as I was first starting the project, I will tell my team member, like, we can have more meetings and communicate properly if they have a problem, and make sure everyone understands their roles and know how to do their tasks. And we also can do more research about the project, all the difficulties that we met when we do our project.